Alright, me and Jesse decided to find a vampire house that, there's a lot of stuff going around about, vampirism, and people really want to know what it really is about. And, well, we have a guest with us, and I don't know if you want to continue on.
Well, how about we just let him introduce himself?
Yeah,
and then we'll move on with a few questions and find out a little bit of the truth and separate from the fiction.
That sounds good.
Well, I am Magister Mephistopheles of House Rakoczy. I am the head of House Rakoczy. I've been the head since 1993, in fact.
Now, you said there was one leader of the house before you, correct?
Yes, that would be Jonas Rakoczy. He founded the house in 1968.
So that's a pretty long-standing house. I mean, that's like way before any thought of like Twilight or any of the popular, any of the popular.
Way far back.
Yeah. So, what are your guys' like basic belief system?
Well, we view the Upir as a distinct and separate race from humanity. We believe that the species evolved separately from mainland humanity, and that we were intended to be a predatory species toward humans at one time, but that has evolved, obviously, over time. It's gone from being predatory to being symbiotic.
Okay.
So, do you believe that vampires have special gifts, like real ones in real life, like to be able to?
Well, especially in the sense of we tend to be stronger, we tend to be faster, things like that. We tend not to get sick. However, I would not try to jump off a building or stand in front of a bus just to prove I'm immortal. You know?
Okay.
Yeah, that probably won't be recommended for anybody out there, so don't try that at home. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of misconceptions between you guys with the real vampirism and what most people think of. I mean, most people think of, like, sleeping in coffins.
First off, Upir or vampires, we're not dead by any means. We are born as what we are. No one becomes a vampire. You know, it's a genetic thing.
Yeah.
Now, there are magical practices based around the idea of vampirism, but that's not the same thing.
Right.
That's correct.
For example, if a magician practices vampirism, he gains what he gains from the practice. But if I don't feed, I have medical issues.
Okay, so if you don't feed, that's the same as like regular humans if they're not eating properly or don't take the medication they need.
That's quite correct.
Yeah, it's a essential thing for survival.
Right.
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 I lost my train of thought.
Well, there are certain things with the feeding thing that we're not going to touch on basis with.
Obviously, I appreciate that.
It's just because I personally am like that too, and I wouldn't want to have my own stuff out there. That's just a really, really private matter that a lot of people probably will freak out about and really won't understand unless they really know. I mean, yes, that factor of getting sick, I mean, that does play a part. And being this way. The point of this video this interview is actually how does like a parent like does ghosts actually interfere with our daily routines? Does it?
Well, in my case, I'm self-employed. And so I'm able to work my own hours and live a very functional life, and fairly openly, as a matter of fact. Most people assume it's a bit of a joke, the fact that I'm a night owl and so on. But it enables me to be functional around people and so forth without having to explain much. So I can do what I do and be what I am with very little trouble. But it really helps that I'm self-employed. Many of the members have day jobs, no pun intended, and, they have to do things like cover up and wear sunglasses, because while sunlight will not make any of us explode, it will make us weak, it will make us nauseous, and we will blister, most of us. And there are, within the species, types that have more and less sensitivity.
Actually, that's something I actually wanted to personally talk to you about. I've noticed lately,
too.
I actually break out from the sun. Like, I actually went to the dermatologist, and I'm actually allergic to the sun. Like, I will break out all over any part of my body.
Are you O negative by any chance?
I think you are. I think that's what they said you were.
I think I'm O. I know I'm O. I don't know.
O negative is the rare one.
That's okay. Most of the species are a type O of one kind or another.
I'm O positive.
Which used to be RH negative, as a matter of fact.
I think I'm O positive. That's what I am, I think.
I'm O positive.
Well, in any case, most of those tend to be type O. That is, biologically speaking, the oldest type of blood.
O is or RH?
O.
O is? Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that's just something that I personally struggle with.
A good way to combat the sun sensitivity is to use things like body coverage. I wear a trench coat when I have to go out most of the time. It's not just a fashion statement.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
And sunglasses are a complete necessity, because part of the problem with the sun is our eyes tend to pick up more stimulus than human eyes. So the light gets into the eyes and overstimulates several areas of the brain, which causes the body to overheat and so forth.
That's actually proven too, by the way. There's actually real studies being done on, our species, pretty much per se, if you want to call it that.
I do.
And there really is scientific proof that we exist in today's world. And it's not necessarily
and we have. There've been various experiments by different governments throughout the years. Fortunately, it hasn't gotten as severe as it could have gotten. But governments and so forth have always been interested.
Yeah. Well, that's like with a lot of different things related to the paranormal, like like remote viewing and all that type of stuff.
MK Ultra, remote viewing, all that stuff.
Yep, all that stuff was a big subject of the military because of possible uses.
Well, logically, if it exists, it would behoove any government worth any salt to explore it.
Right. Yeah.
Especially in the military sense.
Yeah.
So, a little bit more on your house here. All your members actually range from all different types of way of life. Not all of us dress like we're from the Middle Ages, and it definitely is something that a lot of us are kind of scared to talk about, and I'm really.
Well, yeah. I mean, my members range from people like myself that tend to dress like an old biker. I have one member who's a lawyer. Yeah, it's all kinds of people.
Yeah, right. So I mean, when people think of like people that actually practice vampirism or any forms of that, I mean, in a real sense, most people out there in society are probably got a picture like people dressed like all goth type looking, like not
in the back.
Right.
I mean,
well, what they have are essentially archetypal images that have been repeated, based on fiction.
Yeah.
And some of the images that are out there are actually more than one archetype merged together. For example, at certain points in history, you had the noble or the aristocracy being associated with vampirism.
Right.
Because at the time those things were written about, the nobility was looked down upon, and so they were associated with vampirism. As a negative.
Like with the whole cape wearing and stuff like that, right? Like
right.
the real,
And so in modern times you have gang mentality being applied to vampirism. You have criminal activity, like the mafia, being applied to vampirism.
Yeah.
Right.
In the media. So,
and
the public community, unfortunately, to a degree, has incorporated, some of the stereotypes to a point where they will take an idea that there's some kind of struggle between the houses in the media, and some people will actually assume that that's real for the community.
So do you actually have rivals, like other houses?
Well, look, I'll put it like this. We are aware that some houses don't like ours, but we don't really care.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can have that anytime there's any type of established group. I mean,
we get it all the time. No, we get it all the time.
Right. I mean, it's not through an active participation on our part. Is my point.
Right.
So
you don't intentionally
I'm a
go
live
out.
and let live kind of person until you invade my space.
Right. So you're not going out there trying to intentionally start trouble with other groups or anything.
Right.
Yeah.
For example, people can say what they want to say about me online. I don't really care. However, if anyone ever showed up, at my front door, I would deal with it.
Well, yeah.
As politely as possible at first.
Mm-hmm.
I actually heard that there's actually some type of vampire hunter out there, actually. A real life maniac.
Okay.
That's what I heard.
There was rumors it come about every couple of months. I have encountered unstable people who thought they were hunters.
Yeah.
I've also met unstable people who thought they were Lestat.
Oh, God.
Who thought they were Dracula.
Oh,
and
boy.
several other things. I've even met myself.
Really?
Yeah. I met a young man once who claimed that he was Mephistopheles, head of House Rakoczy, and he was coming to take me out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
Wow.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I called the police, like any tax-paying citizen would.
Wow. That's interesting.
We've done, me and Jesse's, we've been in, we're actually in a few different types of groups right now, like I was telling you before, but these, you really have to weed out, the people that are really, really insane. And, the paranormal, when we do investigations, too, we still have to make sure that we're not going to a maniac's house and we're going to all get freaking murdered,
I mean, obviously, to keep in mind is there's unstable people in every aspect of
some
life.
people, they don't even realize that you're serious about your way of life, so they think it's a joke.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And so, they'll call, or they'll text, or they'll send strange emails, Yeah, and the important thing is to verify and, be polite. I try to always be polite.
Alright, so here's a question. You go on, like, the internet or anything. Are we still connected?
I don't know.
It looks like we're loading.
Can you hear us?
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy.
We lost him.
That's not good.
Alright, well, stand by.
What's that say?
There's a problem with the call. Hold on and call back. Oh, boy.
What the?
We had a drop call.
It says I don't...
Answer. You there?
Hello?
Yeah, I know we lost connection there for a minute.
And video.
Yeah.
Did you call?
Do you want me to try to do the video call again?
Yes, please.
Okay.
It happens. You know.
Yep.
So far, I think the interview is going well. We're going to try to get into the subject and why this would be a little bit more, why we do this, why is this...
Right, how does this tie in with...
To the paranormal.
Paranormal. Middle one.
The middle one.
The middle one.
Oh.
And there we go.
There it is.
Alright. So, Brian was just saying that we would like to try and move into the subject of how this ties into paranormal. Why we are interviewing you.
Well, in my case, I was taught various forms of the occult as part of my getting to know my own nature. And it was sort of a form of survival training. Learning how to ward things off, learning how to channel your energies and so forth to get the most out of what you were.
Well, I know a few people that I've come across that, claim to be a vampire or some type of real life variation of that. Typically, they either practice some type of occultism or paranormal practices,
right.
And a lot of times they're aware of spirits around them. And
my household practices magic, and as a part of that, we often have to deal with entities, spirits. Whether to accomplish what we're trying to accomplish, or to negate what the entities are trying to accomplish.
Here's a question for you. This is actually related to my investigations too. I actually find that a lot of spirits don't like me just because of the way I am. Do you find this to be true?
It's because Upir or vampires tend to exist on more than one planet at a given time. So, for example, a ghost would perceive us both as a ghost and as a living being. That's where the myth of the idea of a vampire having two souls comes from.
Okay.
Because we have one part of us that's on the other side, and we have the other part of us that's still in our bodies.
Okay. Well, and we've kind of come across, at different cases and different locations we've gone to doing investigations that, just in general, a lot of times someplace where there's been magic or occult practiced, or people that practice it, there would generally be a higher spirit activity at that location.
Well, that's because practices of any kind, whether it's religion, mystical, or magical, most of that is about making mundane space accessible to other dimensions. So when you have a place where ceremonies of any kind take place, or even like rhythmic prayer or chanting, you're essentially opening up doorways. So you're going to have more activity. And that's also why things like crime, because it's a kind of trauma, it stimulates the same vibrations as ritual in some cases.
Oh, okay.
Here's another question. There is different types of vampires.
Oh, certainly.
And would you like to touch basis on a few of the different types? Or
Well, my house recognizes 4 tribes of the species. There is the Strega tribe. We tend to be the occultists, the magicians, sorcerer types. That would be my tribe, by the way.
that sounds like me.
There is the Nosferatu,
No.
and they tend to have more bestial physical traits, and tend to be more in touch with, like, the natural environment. They tend to like the woods a lot. You find a lot of Nosferatu also working in things like sideshows, things like that. Modern primitive types. We also have the Incubi or Succubi tribe. They tend to be the sensualists. Among us, the party types. They tend to be the most sociable of the species. And then you have the Revenant tribe, which these are the ones that actually do resemble what most humans think of as vampires. They tend to be overly pale. They tend to, frankly, look corpse-like, especially when they first wake up.
I also believe that there is actually not a physical type vampire, but a vampire that is actually like a ghost. That just
Certainly. Disembodied spirits often sustain themselves through vampiric feeding of one kind or another.
I mean, I got onto that subject with somebody before, like, are ghosts actually vampires, like a form of vampire?
I would say there's a distinct difference because vampires are a living species.
Yeah.
And what the spirit is doing is essentially the same thing a deity does when someone prays to it or makes an offering to it. They're taking in that sustenance and they're using it to sustain their presence in this plane.
That's a very good answer.
I like that.
Yeah. Let's see.
That's why many deities began life, if you will, as celebrated warriors and heroes. They evolved into deities.
So basically, with that theory in place, somebody that had a lot of people like believing in them or trusting in them, when they die, then they would continue that fan base, if you will, and that gave them more power.
That is getting into that.
That's also why things like Star Wars have actually the beginnings of being a paradigm. Because there are so many people that believe in the concepts Lucas put forward that their energy going towards it creates a kind of quasi-reality for it.
Yep, and that's goes in, I think we may have touched base on before, creating thought forms and all that type of stuff.
Well, the Christian Bible says, as a man thinketh, so is he.
Right.
Oh, yeah. We always thought that concept of putting that idea out there, if you that we could even actually make an entity out of thin air, and if we got enough believers in it.
That is an egregore.
What's that?
An egregore? That's the traditional term in Greek for a thought form.
Okay.
Oh.
I know there's
the Buddhists call it a tulpa.
Yep, I was just trying to think of that tulpa. Yeah. Yeah, because the Buddhists they believe in that stuff too. But yeah, I mean that's the same thing as just having a positive attitude. Everybody says that's like the whole. I think that's where the whole knock on wood thing comes from. Almost. You think bad things are gonna happen. I mean, it all sends different vibrations out into the universe.
I mean, I try to be positive as most as I can. I mean, a lot of people think that it's all glorified to be a vampire, and me personally,
Well,
I think it's both. Like,
if I wasn't born this way, it's not something I would seek out.
no. It is your life, and you can't change the fact that that's what you are.
For example, from my perspective, it's no different than being born white or being born black or being, it's what you are. So you have to come to terms with it.
I've always believed that it also depends on how you were born too. When most I hear, like myself, I was pretty much born dead. I wasn't alive when I was
right,
conceived.
and then you woke up.
Correct.
Right, I understand.
So, I mean, what we want to try to achieve with the video too, is not necessarily to try to make people believe that that we are real. It's more or less
clear up some of the misconceptions.
Yeah,
and
videos.
Hopefully, open up some more public understanding.
Yeah.
Well, ask away. I'm happy to answer any questions I can answer.
So if
there are things, obviously, I don't know. I don't know everything. But what I do know, I will share. It's part of the job.
Well, I'd like to think I know everything, but oh well.
The moment you think you know everything, you obviously
there's something
know
else.
nothing. In my experience.
Oh shoot! What was I gonna say? Forget what I was gonna say.
So how many different countries do you guys actually have members in?
At present, we have members in, I believe, 6 countries.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, it is.
I would have to consult my records to be sure.
And you said most of you guys don't communicate online. You guys, like old school with your communication in a lot of sense, huh?
Yeah, that is true. Although I have got some of them using cell phones now.
Hey, moving forward, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, to be organized in today's times, it's tough to get away from that,
Oh, believe me, I know that. I long for the days when I'm hard to reach.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we get that too. I mean, with all between my cult studies, the paranormal stuff, it's really hard to take the time to stop and talk to people relatively the same as me, or it's a very rare occasion that I get to talk to other groups that are out there, and I'm really happy of what we do as a paranormal team, and incorporating my the vampire stuff and my occult stuff into this, which makes it really unique.
It would help. My house has essentially our holy book called the Testament of Shadows that we put out that kind of gives a concise view of our perspective of reality. It contains the basics of our beliefs, our practices. It was put out by us through Publishing, and it's available online.
Like Amazon or anything, they would have that?
Lulu would have it.
Lulu? Okay. And what was the name of that again?
Testament of Shadows.
Okay. And who is the author of that then? Is that...
I am listed as the editor.
Okay.
Right.
And we can provide all that information.
The text itself is the result of magical working.
Okay.
That was done a long time ago.
We touched on that subject, like this house was actually before a lot of all these TV programs that they're on right now. Do you watch any of the online
Actually, I do. I like some of them. I like some of them for the humor of it.
If you had a chance, what is the closest show that actually almost. What am I trying to say? Almost like kind of like how your life is. If there was a show.
What's the closest to reality?
I can't really say that about any of the TV shows, but I can point you to a somewhat old movie.
Okay.
There was a movie put out by Roger Corman years ago called Blood Ties.
I
don't know if I ever saw that one.
I think I have.
I'm probably gonna look it up though now.
That was realistic. It was put out in the mid-'80s, I think.
Okay.
And that was realistic. For example, they could go out in the day, but they didn't like it. They were a little bit stronger, a little bit faster than the average human being. Their desires were a little more intense, but they were real people. They had jobs.
Okay.
Like me, I have a mortgage.
Right. Yeah, and you don't... Yeah, you're not immortal in the modern sense.
Well, personally, I've had enough close calls to where I think that if nothing were to stop me from living, there's no reason why I should die.
Yeah? Yeah,
but I'm, like I said before, I'm not going to step out for the bus to prove it.
Right, you're right.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm open to the possibility of immortality. On a personal level, I believe in my own immortality.
Right.
Yeah.
But if evidence disproves it, well then, I obviously have to be logical.
Correct.
Right.
So you don't have nightclubs and people are not getting crazy, that kind of stuff, or?
Well, there are places where vampires do mingle with the goth crowd, if that's what you mean. And I mean that happens, but most of my house in particular, we don't really do that.
Okay.
If I may go back a bit, according to my mentor, the original vampire community mingled with the goth community that was forming in the late 60s, early 70s, as a way of sort of having more interaction with normal people.
Okay.
They thought that among the goths, they could kind of skate by. And it was a way for people in our community to develop relationships outside of the community. And unfortunately, in my opinion, the two subcultures sort of merged.
I actually seen that. I didn't know about that, but I seen that. I actually thought that's what actually happened, and now that you saying that,
well,
it's actually
the vampire community originally evolved out of those families that were involved in it. They were typically also involved in the occult, and when the occult became more mainstream in the late 60s, early 70s, the other pretender or non-human communities began to come out at the same time, little bit by little bit.
Here's another question. Do you believe that there is other beings out there besides us?
Oh, certainly. There are at least 5 other than human races I'm aware of.
Could you list them for us?
Oh, yeah. There's the Upir, which is the vampire race. There is the Gerulf, which is the were species, werewolf, werepanther, were-jaguar, pretty much any predatory species.
Yeah.
You have the Fae, which are your elves and so forth, which are actually elven and so forth, human hybrids. Then you have your angelic descendants and your demonic descendants.
I ran into almost every single one of them.
Say again?
I said I ran into almost every single one of those.
Well, from my house's records and from my own research, those are the identifiable species, although I don't preclude the idea that there are not others.
Oh, yeah. You know, as a paranormal investigator too, I mean, I definitely have to look into the concept that those beings are real. To me, they're real, obviously, and it's real to them that they. I ran into a werecat
part of
person.
what I believe is, if you have a certain belief and you have enough evidence for that belief, so that it works for you and you're able to function through it, then that belief is valid.
Yeah.
Now, I will only call bullshit on someone, pardon my language, if the belief they espouse does not match the evidence they have.
Right. Okay,
For example,
that makes sense.
I once met a member of the community who claimed to be over 1,000 years old.
Okay.
And I was curious to hear Latin spoken, the way someone who's over 1,000 years old would have likely spoken Latin.
Huh.
And oddly enough, this individual only had the vocabulary of, say, a 15-year-old who'd never spoken Latin in his life.
Wow.
Huh.
So, while I commended his belief, and I respect his belief,
Yeah.
and I don't preclude the possibility that he might be a reincarnation of this or that,
Right.
Obviously his brain had not caught up with his soul.
Yeah, you do come across that a lot, definitely. Like for example, I've been doing studies on the werewolf type clans. Actually, we actually have werewolf sightings in this area. Like we actually have full blown.
Are you in Michigan?
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin is tied to the Michigan.
Yeah, I'm aware.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean
there are at least 2 packs in that region I'm aware of.
That's exactly what I was thinking about, and I think we got in contact of one of the clans that were involved in that. It's something very, very hard to talk about.
That's a very different community than you appear do.
Oh yeah, they actually do have allergic reactions like we do too. Like
very much so.
Like silver, they'll break out in like a really bad rash for having silver on them. I mean that kind of stuff's kind of cool too, and it's what's really cool about it is there is that science behind it too that like wow.
Right.
Every full moon they actually become a little bit stronger, or their moods change a little bit, and
well, yeah, I mean, what they're dealing with is an atavism, a genetic memory of some bestial quality that is synced with the moon or other astrological body. Yeah, it's not just the moon. The moon is one influence on them. In my experience, anyway.
Oh yeah, no, by all means, I'm no expert. I'm still, I'm always.
I once knew a girl very well, but that did not end well.
What do you mean?
Well, their community did not like the association, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that whole concept of underworld is kind of true then, huh?
Well, no. And see, I'm glad you brought that up, because
yeah.
that film and those kind of media were used by this one group I'm thinking of to foster a false sense of persecution and strife as a way of controlling their membership.
Huh.
We actually came across a group that's actually anti-vampires, everything, very hateful. And the thing is like that has to be made up off of one of these like TV programs, because
right.
I know a lot of werewolves or whatever the people that call themselves that, they're really nice people.
Right.
They're not.
I've had good friendships with were beings of various kinds.
Mm-hmm.
I find them to be as full spectrum as any other species. There's good and bad.
Yeah, I was just
in
gonna
every
say that. I
species.
mean, there's ones that are great people, and just like any other group or any other species, there's assholes too. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
I'd like to mention too, for the people that are watching, this isn't like a fantasy role playing game. I mean, there is actually people that really do believe this stuff to be real and
live the lifestyle.
Lifestyle, and it's just it's just a really hard thing to talk about to people that they really need to understand that there is stuff out there that that we can't explain yet.
I find that the people who need to know that this stuff is out there find their way to it.
Regardless.
Right.
Yeah, and as far as the role players, the lifestylers, the fetishists, and so forth, better they go on the government watch lists than me.
Right? Yeah.
Have you speaking of that, have you been on that or no?
I have had some talks with persons that claim to represent certain bodies in the government.
Really?
I mean, I know we've been contacted a few times with one of our groups that we were running with a while back. They do put you on an occult watch list of different types of things.
And if I was the government and I had these possibly suspicious groups, I might look at them too.
But you have a set rule of no killing, right? Correct? Am I right?
Correct. In fact, if you do anything illegal in the country, anything that's illegal in the country in which you dwell, you are cast out from the house.
A lot of occult groups are like that. Even the ones that I'm affiliated with, and even the Freemasons, for example, they're kind of like that too. If
you get any felony charge or anything related to that, you're out.
So I mean,
especially because, if you look at VICAP, the Violent Criminal Apprehension Program, there is a classification of crimes divided into werewolf and vampire crimes.
Really?
Yes.
Huh.
And because of that, any criminal activity that can be classified either way, that already exists. So if we have a member who's not acting appropriately, who's being, disreputable, then they've already put themselves and us by proxy in jeopardy.
Yeah.
So you have people in line that actually monitor that kind of stuff, correct?
Oh, yes, we do.
Okay. So, let's say somebody wanted to join your house. Would they actually have to get a hold of one of your members?
You have to get a hold of a member, usually, or find the website. And you have to consult, the information on the website. And once you get in touch with a member, they typically will get in touch with me. I will take a look at your application.
I'll review it.
And if I think that, it's worth it to us and to you, we will make you a prospect, like a motorcycle club.
Okay.
You have different levels to that, I'm assuming active
once you
and
become
non-active.
prospect, you get a mentor or a sire. The term sire is used tongue-in-cheek. Mentor would probably be a better description. You get a mentor. The mentor will educate you in the ways of the race and of the house. And after 6 months to a year, usually not under 6 months, or not more than 2 years, you will be made a full member. You will get a charter certificate and a ring like this one.
Okay, that's pretty neat.
And, there's no real formal initiation or anything like that. But it does take a while to become one of us.
Now, do you guys have like annual membership fees or anything like that?
The Masons?
Oh, no. There is no money involved.
No?
At all. We do not take fees. We do not demand money from members. In fact, all the money from the books that the house puts out go into a fund for the house. I do not have access to that money myself. That is a non-profit organization.
Oh, cool.
What's the link to that if somebody wanted to donate?
Actually, we have not put that out yet.
Okay.
Right now, the only way you can really donate is to buy books.
Okay.
All right.
And we have a number of books you can buy. The main one, however, is The Testament of Shadows. Another book we have out is The Cultist de Ligaroo, which is about the local vampire lineage I come from here in Louisiana.
So, you probably heard rumors about Sebastian and Zach making their own reality television show about vampires.
Are you talking of Father Todd?
Sebastian, is that his real name, Todd?
I think his first name is Todd, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Father Sebastian Sabretooth?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I've heard that he is making a reality show. I wish him well, if that's the case.
Oh yeah, me too.
What he does and what I do are very different things.
Because, well, what would be the difference, the main difference that you would say?
Well, from reading his books and having brief conversations with him, he takes vampirism more as a magical or religious practice versus a biological reality. Whereas, in my belief, in my way of life, it is both a biological and a spiritual condition.
Yeah.
I liken it to being Jewish. You're born Jewish and then you have the option of the religious faith.
Right.
In my case, I was born Upir, and being Upir, I practice certain things. But not all Upir do.
Right.
Huh.
So would you say, not to like put you on the spot, and if you don't want to answer, that's fine, but do you consider like Sebastian and the Sabretooths, do you consider them vampires too? Does your house recognize them?
I would call them what we call magical vampires.
Okay.
People that practice, magical vampirism.
Okay.
And I think that they would agree with that definition.
Okay.
Okay, and again, that's the conception of practicing vampirism, but are not actually vampires. That's the clarification, pretty much.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know about the Zach from Ghost Adventures becoming the producer of it. That's kind of, I don't know, like a lot of.
Well,
I wanted to do this show before.
Sebastian, and I'm trying to remember to use his full version of his name.
Van Houten, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sebastian Van
He
Houten.
has always been about the public element of the community.
Right. Yeah, he's very
He
open about a
and
lot of stuff.
Maven Lore, put the public community together. And I respect them for that.
Oh yeah, me too. That helps me even put this show out. I wouldn't do it unless there was a different a public view of it already. But as an investigator and as a person that, is into this stuff myself, I really want to show people that, it's not necessarily about ghosts. I mean, this,
Right.
paranormal is paranormal, and, some people do have, natural gifts, speaking of that,
For example, some of the Upir breeds are as much shapeshifters in that respect as some rare breeds.
So, I mean, so would that actually, like, fall into, like, the descriptions of, like, fangs actually extending, that type of idea, or?
Say again?
Would that, you said some are almost like shapeshifters, would that fall into, like, the category of, like, fangs extending, or anything like that?
Well, yeah, to be frank. What happens in that case, though, is as the hunger builds and the brain realizes what's going on, the gums will recede a little bit, and the teeth will not grow as much as be more exposed.
Okay.
Because what happens is the serotonin levels drop, and many of the social controls that prevent things like seeing other people as prey go away. And so the body begins to adapt to pursue its appetite.
Okay, so you become more, your animal nature comes out more, to be blunt.
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
which is also why most of us, at least in my house, practice some form of martial arts, because it's a way of channeling that aggression that comes out in a safe way.
Okay.
And it does come out. Can you... I don't know how to explain it myself. I don't know if you would be able to, but there is a kind of a rage per se.
Well, yeah.
That
we have within us as a species a level of aggression that humans left behind in the primordial past. We are predatory in our orientation.
But that
as a result, we pick up on cues of threat and intimidation that most humans do not pick up on.
But you also
so, for example, if someone stands a certain way, if someone uses a certain tone of voice, it sparks a primitive response in an appear that it would not provoke in a human being.
So, yeah, more in touch with, like, the body language and not just primarily speech like most people nowadays.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what do you do to members that actually, they can't control their... I mean, obviously you do have some kind of training. I don't know if you want to touch on the subject or not. I mean, I'm kind of worried about, about this myself, but if you're open about it, what would you do?
Well, when we have a member whose beast has gotten away from them, we tend to try to talk them down verbally, and if that doesn't work, there are energetic means full members can employ to rein that beast in for that member.
Yeah, because some people, it's just like crack, for example. I mean, I'm not gonna that having that you can get a bloodlust. Am I correct? Like, you want more of it?
Say again?
Like a bloodlust?
Well, the hunger is not the same as the aggression. If it's a hunger issue, we deal with the hunger issue. If it's an anger or an aggression issue, we deal with that issue. It's two separate things.
And you have you actually have like psychiatrists and stuff like that are actually part of your house as well too, correct? Or do you know people?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we do.
So I mean, this isn't not just like, we're all thinking we're vampires and then we're all mentally insane. we actually, do have therapists in our own houses.
We have therapists, we have writers, we have artists, we have martial artists like myself, we have ministers. I'm also a minister.
So are we.
So are we.
Walks of life.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, we try to consult with somebody that is a member of the house if you need somebody that. You have somebody that is in that field already.
Right. For example, as I mentioned earlier, we have someone that works on computer stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
So
that's cool.
versus me getting out my hammer.
Yeah.
Hey,
it's fixed.
It's not good. It's not gonna malfunction anymore.
What happened to the computer? Why is it on fire?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Is there anything new?
I don't know. I think this is about it. We're almost at the hour mark here.
Is there anything that you would like to put out there that we maybe didn't cover?
Well, here's one thing. I know that many people like to go to public vampire events, and most people are aware of Endless Night in New Orleans. They also are having a different event, a sort of alternative to Endless Night, known as Bad Things.
Okay.
And my house is a part of that.
Oh, okay.
So if you're interested, feel free to look into it.
Okay. Would there be information about that on your webpage or?
Bad Things, you can find that on Facebook.
Okay.
And I believe they have their own website as well.
Okay.
If you want anything...
I would also remind people that as my house has become more public, there are several of us you can find on Facebook. Many of us have Rakoczy as our last name. Some of us do not, but, we have the public members out there. And, we're not too difficult to find. As long as you're serious.
I mean,
if you're looking for Blade or Buffy the Vampire Slayer, I can't help you.
Yeah, I mean, if you really want, we could promote you guys if you really wanted. We could put you in our videos or whatever if that's something you'd be interested in.
Any last questions?
Not really. I know you have to get going here.
Okay, cool.
Alrighty.
Well, we really appreciate you being here with us, and
it's been an honor for sure.
Happy to do it. I wish I'd had a little more time to prepare.
Yeah, me too. I'm sorry I kind of brought that on, and all of a sudden I got an email from you. I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have time to
shave,
right?
I didn't have time to shave. I'm like, oh, let's do this. Because time is essence, We're all always busy.
We may have forever, but even forever only has so many hours in a night or day.
Right?
Yeah. All right, well, thank you again, and hopefully we'll talk again soon.
Okay, give me a call.
Sounds good. Thank you.